Okay. Hello, Mr. Tony Pierre. How are you?
Not too bad.
Oh, okay. Good. Glad to have you in the Cool Breeze Stratosphere. Yeah, how you been? Everything's good?
Everything is good.
Yeah. The Diva and I, thanks Diva for covering for me today till 1 o'clock. The Cool Breeze Experience every Saturday from 11 a.m. till whenever music leaves the soul, so to speak. But I'm glad to have you here. It's an honor and a pleasure having you down in the studio, and thank you for taking the time to come down and spend some time with us. And today we're gonna talk about your evolution, your mission, your spirituality with your music. But before we get into that, what's a normal day for you outside of music?
Outside of music, I am actually a computer geek. Did a degree in computer science at York University.
Right.
And I work with a big pharma company, Apotex, generic pharma.
Okay.
And I actually manage a department that does all the company's websites, internal and external websites.
Okay.
That's the bread and butter side.
Okay.
So then there's the soul side.
The soul side, all right. Tell us about this Calabash group.
So Calabash, like most good things, was a mistake.
Right.
I was in a band with a guy called Carlton Alexander.
Okay.
Normally known as Carlton Zander. He's the younger brother of Clive Zander, famous jazz musician in Trinidad.
Okay.
And Carlton is also a gifted keyboard player and composer. He had a group in Toronto called the Coal Pot Band.
Okay.
Carlton loves crazy names.
Right.
I think there's a generation of the Coal Pot Band in Trinidad now, actually. And interestingly enough, Carlton just won the Panorama in Trinidad with Desperados. First time Desperados has won in 11 years. He started arranging for Despas and brought them back to the top of the Caravana.
Yeah.
So he had this group in Toronto. A number of us were in it with him.
Uh-huh.
And we ended off. He went to Trinidad for some time. Had a gig. We had a gig for Caravana back then.
Mm-hmm.
I think this might have been about 1993, and he never made it back for the gig. And we decided, hey, we have a gig. Let's pull a group together. Still go do the press launch for Caravana.
Right.
We had such a great time playing together that we ended up forming it was like an iteration of the Coal Pot Band that split into Calabash.
Wow.
In those days, the founding members were myself, Darren Shepard, the steel drum player, Orrin Isaacs on bass, Wilson Lawrenson on drums,
right.
Dave Williams on keyboards, and Demo Cates on saxophone.
Wow. I had a few of these guys down here. Joaquin Nunez Hildego.
Yeah, but actually Joaquin now plays. Calabash today is really the third iteration of the band. My saxophone player likes to call it Calabash 3.0.
Okay.
So
right.
the first was the group I talked about with Orrin and Wilson and Dave.
Right.
And then we went through another iteration. Dave Williams left the band. He was the keyboard player. Left the band, and I brought on Andrew Craig.
Okay.
And Andrew sort of came up with the second iteration of the band. He had guys that he loved to play with. He loved to play with Colin Allen, saxophone. Loved to play with Rich Brown on bass. He loved to play with Mark. I forget Mark's surname on drums.
Okay.
And so he brought them into the band. When we did the first album, Andrew produced the first album, and that album was built around the second iteration of the band. Although we used some of the old guys, Orrin played on the CD.
Okay.
Wilson played quite a number of tracks on the CD. Dave never played on the CD. He wasn't well at the time.
Right.
And never got to record. He was in a odd space
right.
at the time. Let's leave it there.
Right. No problem.
And so that was the second iteration of the band.
Right.
Then Andrew Craig left, went on. He started working in CBC, went on to other stuff, and and we now in the third iteration of the band. That's when Joaquin joined. I asked Joaquin. I met Joaquin at Soul Drums on Young Street, and I asked Joaquin to join the band. I was looking to bring. I wanted in particular to bring bata drums into the performance.
Right.
The Cuban bata drums.
Okay.
And that's when I got Joaquin into the band. Had a new Darren Shepherd left. Went to. He lives in Trinidad now, so I have Gareth Burgess on steel drums.
Right.
And there's a whole new iteration of the band. My current keyboard player is Michael Shand, who is a killer, and then Andrew Stewart on bass replaced Rich. So this is like the third iteration of the band. Very nice iteration of the band, though. Very
right. Because
really nice guys to play with.
I saw some of these guys in your band playing the Caribbean Jazz Collective.
Exactly.
Hildego, the Andrew Stewart, and the Pan guy.
Joaquin spun off. He had this gig at the Dominion on Queen that he used to do every one day every I think the first Friday or last Friday of the month.
Right. And
he spun off some of the guys in the band to do that gig, and then they kind of morphed into a group on their own with Eddie Bullen on keyboards.
Right. Amazing collaboration. Any group I hear with that Caribbean mixture is just unbelievable.
It is indeed. It's a pity I didn't meet you before, because we just performed at the Jazz Bistro. We had 2 nights at the Jazz Bistro, the 26th and 27th of August, and then we did there's a little club out in Ajax called the Rum Diaries. I don't know if you know it.
Okay.
That has a live music on Thursday nights, and we just did that on I think it was September 1st.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. But where did your love and passion for music come from, and how did that influence your style as a musician?
Oh boy, that goes way back. My family, the Pierre family, is a famous family from Trinidad, famous musical family. My aunts sang and played piano. One of my aunts, Elsa, played the organ in the All Saints Church. So that the whole side, that side of the family was very musical. My uncle, this was a family of 11 kids, and most of them were involved in music. One of my uncles played and sang and so on. My father actually played violin, and so I started taking piano lessons at age 8, I think, in studying with my aunt, and I've been involved in music ever since. Just because when you get involved in music at that early age, music becomes a part of your life.
Right.
So I took formal piano lessons until about age 16 and so on.
Wow.
Came up to Toronto to study at university and continued playing. I played with a steel band in Trinidad, Silver Stars. Right. Before leaving, I spent a year, the last year, 67.
Yes.
Actually recorded with them. I have an album that I am playing on, about 3 or 4 of the tracks on the album. So played some pan, because my father was heavily involved in pan. He was instrumental in helping Ellie Manette form the Invaders steel band. And he actually used to do, he would be in the yard playing violin, teaching the
innovative.
Teaching the steel bandsmen classical music and stuff. So as I say, all of that music has always been, that's the milieu I grew up in Trinidad.
Right.
And music has always been a part of my life. My wife always says I'll be a very unhappy person around if I'm not involved in music. So.
I could understand that. Yeah. What collaborations in music fascinates you?
No, I guess my favorite, I came into, as I said, I grew up listening to classical music. Then I grew up around all the folk and calypso rhythms in Trinidad. When I came to Toronto and was going to school, a buddy of mine, a guy called Roland Samuel, introduced me to jazz. Okay. Those were the days of Herbie Mann, and there was a club in Toronto at the time called the Colonial.
Yes, I remember.
And all the top musicians from the US used to come up. I saw Mongo Santa Maria there, all kinds of
big names,
a wide range, and I got into my first leaning into jazz was Latin jazz. Okay. Through guys like Mongo, who was doing the Latin jazz thing at the time, and that music has always stayed with me, and I guess it's because growing up in the Caribbean, right. we have a lot of the African tradition in the Caribbean, a lot of rhythm, so the straight ahead jazz, the stuff that Winton does, never really appealed to me.
Right.
It was a little esoteric and
Yes.
a little mental at
Yes.
the time.
Right.
And although I appreciate it, I appreciate the musicianship and so on, the jazz that really touches my soul is Latin jazz and the Caribbean jazz fusion. And even today, I have an extensive record collection,
Right.
and the most of my collection is Latin jazz.
Okay.
Still my favorite musicians, which is one of the reasons why I would bring someone like Joaquin into the group, because
Right.
he comes from Cuba
And he brings that,
he brings that whole Cuban
Amazing
Cuban
musician,
influence.
man. I saw this guy a
Yeah.
couple times with different groups. Unbelievable.
Gifted musician, and he in Calabash he gets a chance to stretch out on drums. He doesn't play; he plays a lot of percussion otherwise.
Right.
In Calabash he plays with drum kit, so he loves to play in Calabash because he gets to stretch out on drum kit. But
Great.
I would say that's my favorite. The Latin jazz idiom is my favorite.
Favorite one, eh?
Yeah.
Now, what is your definition of musical success?
Oh, that's an interesting one. Well, success for me
Yeah.
would be, well, musical success would have to be something like Orrin Isaacs, who can live off of music.
Right.
I'm in fact the only player in Calabash who's not a full-time musician.
Okay.
I've never taken the risk as a percussionist. You never get called. Most of the guys do percussion on a keyboard now and stuff. So
Right.
I dare not step out and say I'm going into music full-time. I probably wouldn't be able to pay my rent and eat. You know?
Right. I hear you.
So I would define success as building a career where you're able to live comfortably off of music as a full-time profession.
Right.
So, I mean, there's many levels of success beyond that. You know, there's the stratosphere when you're at the level like a Michael Jackson or Herbie Hancock or something, or Quincy Jones. But success. The first success is just being able to eat through what you play. You know?
What musicians out there that you really famous musician you really admire?
I have a range because I was a keyboard player. I was Calabash played in the Toronto Jazz Festival recently, and one of the things they asked on the application when we were applying to get into the festival was give them an idea of who your favorites were. I think they asked for 5 favorites.
Right.
I guess it was setting up if they did radio interviews with you, they'd have some stuff to fall back on. And I wrote down my 5 favorites. I look back at it and realized I had put down like 4 keyboard players.
Right.
So because I played keyboards in my early years and have always loved keyboards, I still use it to arrange and write.
Right.
My leaning is towards great keyboard players. So people like Herbie Hancock,
Absolutely amazing.
would be one of my faves, and a number of other people, McCoy Tyner, you know. There's a really
real heavy duty guys.
badass Latino keyboard player, Michel Camillo. He's a monster.
Right.
I also love Eliane Elias from Brazil.
Right.
Really beautiful player. So I tend to lean towards keyboards.
Right.
But I do have an appreciation across. I mean, because I had the experience of the Colonial Club, I saw Freddie Hubbard, and Benson used to come all the time to the Colonial and the El Mocambo Club at the time in Toronto.
Right.
So I love players like Benson.
I saw him once. It was just amazing.
Yeah, it's just a stunning. You know, one of the things I like about Benson, I have a couple DVDs by him.
Right.
And it hit me after that Benson is the kind of musician that nobody opens for him. Benson comes on the stage from the time the concert starts. You get Benson for the full two and a half hours of the concert. He's really
and he comes
a monster
storming out of the
player. He comes
gate.
storming out of the gate, hits you straight over the head.
Yeah.
Really, really phenomenal musician.
Love his stuff, man. It's
Also
fun.
love people like there's a more recent guy on the scene, a bass player from the Cameroon. What is his name?
Oh, I think I know the guy. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I was.
He toured with Harry Belafonte.
He toured with
I know
Belafonte
the
a
guy.
while. He
I
played
know the
with
guy.
Pat Metheny, and his name is escaping me.
Yes, I know the guy. I can't remember his name.
Beautiful singer too. But so players like that. Who else? I a number of musicians. I have a long list. Of course, the giants like Quincy Jones and that kind of stuff. But
that would be a great fascination.
but in terms of vocals, my female vocalist is Diane Reeves,
Right.
who I saw
Amazing
in Toronto.
voice.
That was an amazing concert when she came through Toronto some years ago. And then on the male side, my male side would be Al Jarreau. I love Jarreau.
Unbelievable.
And he sits in that space between smooth jazz and the heavier stuff. He's such a gifted musician.
Right.
That's a smattering of the guys I like.
Right. What are your recommendation advice to your listeners, young musician coming on the scene today?
It's a recommendation that I've heard so many people give. You see a lot of people on Facebook giving their ideas and stuff. And the thing is, the trick is to find your passion.
Right.
You have to find the instrument that you're into, and if music is your passion, you work on the instrument. It's all about discipline.
Right.
And on some levels, a bit of it is luck. A lot of young musicians. I wish I had. If I had YouTube when I was growing up, when I was in my teens, when I had time to play the keyboard, I would have been as good as Herbie Hancock, because there's so much stuff out there that you can learn.
Right.
If you focus on you find the instrument you love, you go up on something like YouTube or find a teacher or something. I had trouble finding a jazz keyboard teacher in Toronto.
Wow.
I tried maybe about 2 or 3 different teachers and never found the right person to get me over the hump, playing. And that's why I ended up playing percussion. But but the opportunities out there now are endless, especially with YouTube. You can any instrument you want to learn, you just
dial in.
Yeah, Google it or put in the query on YouTube
Right.
and you find it's amazing that they have people who are so willing to give up their time and teach.
Right.
There are about 4 or 5 different keyboard guys who teach you the basics of comping and soloing, playing solo piano and stuff. So discipline, find your passion, and then take advantage of the web. The web is an incredible tool for that.
Right.
I wish I had it in my teens in Trinidad.
Right. Now, with all these matrix and paradigm shifts in the music industry today, it seems like a very different place today. Are you happy with it?
Boy, it's a struggle, because one of the traps we fell into with Calabash, we struggled a lot to get the first album out. I think we released it in early 2000 somewhere.
Right.
It took a long time. Orin Isaacs, who you talk about a lot on the station, started producing the first album. He had a studio on Bathurst and Richmond in that area.
Right.
And we started recording there, and then he ran into trouble with the studio. The industry started changing. He had been very successful doing the early rap musicians in the city, and just around that time in the late 90s, the music started to shift, or the dynamics started to shift in the music industry, because you had a lot of small studios. So he had a larger studio, kind of mid-sized studio, and he had trouble because the same rappers that he got on the map who started to record in smaller studios. So the whole industry started to shift. In the old days, you would find you would find a record label would have the guys who went out and looked for new acts and so on. So right about that time, in the late 90s, that whole scene started to shift. So our concept was in Calabash, get an album out, then get a record label to pick us up, and we gone from there. Because in jazz, it's the record label that pushes you out and takes you to the festivals across the world. And in fact, people say jazz is dead. I laugh, because if you Google and do research, you'll see that there some research I did some years ago. There are over 4,000 jazz festivals across the world. Jazz festivals in the Philippines, in India, probably 20 something to 50 jazz festivals in Italy alone, France, the whole of Northern Europe and stuff. There are about 1,000 jazz festivals in North America alone, and that's not counting smooth jazz. That count I did before smooth jazz became a thing. There were about 900 to 1,000 jazz festivals just in Canada and the US when I was looking to send the wrong material. So our concept was do an album, hopefully get picked up by a label,
right?
And then we go from there. The trouble is that whole thing shifted.
Wow.
They stopped looking for artists. Everybody was looking for the next Michael Jackson or the next, I don't even remember the next pop artist or something. And so nobody was interested on the artistic side again.
Okay.
I mean, it still happens a little in the US, but it's almost to the point where you have something like Snarky Puppy, who really marketed themselves on YouTube. So that is now the new mechanism. That's very hard to do, because to market yourself on YouTube, you have to get not only a good recording, but you have to have good video, right, and that's one of the things that Snarky did well. They went into a studio, brought some people close in, did great acoustic recording as well as video recording, and became an internet sensation. And now if you look at one of the drummers in Toronto, Lionel Lewis, plays with Snarky Puppy, and you look at Snarky's list of festivals and clubs that they go into across the planet is incredible. It's like a 2-page list, and that's from marketing yourself. So the trouble with a group like Calabash, now that the scene has shifted, now I have to it's hard enough to find the money to do an album, which is maybe $15,000 to $25,000 of an investment if you take to get a good album done. And now I have to add video on top of that. I have to get the guys I'm trying to find the money to get the guys into a studio and do a good video recording that I can kind of try and follow the Snarky Puppy model, because nobody is looking for you to listen to what you're playing. In the old days, they
want the visual to accompany the project. That's unbelievable.
So that part is very tough to market yourself as a group now and get picked up by a major label and get picked up by festivals. We sent our last album right across all the festivals across Canada. It didn't get one response. Not one response, because again the festivals are looking at the big name acts. They bring the Snarky Puppies and so unless you have that draw, you're probably not going to get hired, or beyond that is who you know. If you have a contact in the festival or something, then you have a chance of getting in. But it's a tough environment. Once you get in, you can probably do well and eat from your profession, use the profession to live and pay a living salary and so on. But until you get that break, it's really tough. It's still the music industry on some levels has always been like that. You need a break. You need to be in the right place at the right time. You need that luck. You need to know someone who knows someone or something. Otherwise you struggle. Calabash is a superb group, but we have just never got across that crest of the wave. It's like hitting the wave at the right point, and that makes it tough.
And this is one of the things I find tough with music. I hate to demonize the program with music. You hear some groups playing amazing music and they don't get the time of day making money and all little gigs to keep them running. And then you hear some of this stuff listen on radio. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
It sounded like they went in an evening, cut an album, they have rah 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 boom 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 and some beats, and these guys are making millions of dollars.
What can I tell you? It's the industry. My daughter is an artist, and she loves modern music. She loves rap and all the modern forms. She's a dancer, so she loves all the dance forms of music and stuff. And I gave her an exercise. I said, take any one of the songs you love, and take Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or Mary Had a Little Lamb, and sing it to the song. You realize that the meter in the song is predictable. They use the same meter and over da 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 da. That bores me as a percussionist, you know.
And there was a time in the late 90s somewhere when all the boy bands were coming out and sync this all sounded alike. So
it's unfortunate that has happened to music. But you know, I shouldn't complain. There's still a lot of jazz out there. There's still a lot of music. There's good classical music, and there's some beautiful pop music too. Every now and then somebody
comes
breaks through. There's still the Stevie Wonders of the world, luckily, every now and then. But it's much harder to find that because the music has been simplified a lot. And what people respond to is a rap. That's my cup. While I love some rap music and stuff, the music has been simplified so badly that it becomes, for someone like myself, it becomes monotonous.
Yeah, it does. I like the older school rap, the early days when guys used to really put it together with some really good beats, and it becomes timeless.
Yeah.
But the new stuff doesn't freeze me.
Yeah, I grew up on Motown in this late 60s and 70s and the Philadelphia sound and stuff. So music for me is about harmony and rhythm, a beautiful melody, and that has been lost today a little bit. You know, there are still people who try, like the John Legends and the Alicia Keys of the world.
Yes.
But they aren't as good writers as the Tom Bell and Linda Creed and you know,
different animal.
Different.
Tell me, is there a time when you and your instrument are alone? Tell us about that intimacy.
I on percussion. Percussion is a tough area because it's such a wide range of instruments. So you do have to spend some time with the instrument learning technique. I take conga lessons from Joaquin. My kit drummer is a great conga player, conguero from Cuba, and so I learned Cuban technique from him, and Cuban conga technique is the most sophisticated technique. It's like if you look at East Indians play the tabla, is as complex as learning to play tabla well.
Wow.
And so you have to spend that time with the instrument. My focus is congas, but I play bongos, I play timbales. But every one of those instruments, you need to spend time to really become a competent player on the instrument. Even all the Brazilian instruments, there's one called the pandeiro that's really a fascinating instrument to play. But every one of those instruments you pick up is some hours of getting the basics right. So I do spend. Luckily, I have a basement that's insulated, and I can make as much noise as I want. So I jam till 1 or 2 in the morning on my congas, just playing along with a YouTube video or something to learn.
Yeah. Now, Tony, tell me, when it all is said and done with you and music, how would you like to be remembered?
Remember, I at this point I don't even study remembered, you know.
Legacy.
Yeah, I presume Calabash will be a bit of a legacy for me. As you go through life, you know, some people get into university, they're a professor, they write papers, they do a PhD, they have a thesis and stuff. So this stuff that would be left behind for me is the recordings that I did with Calabash. I have produced the 2 albums that we did, at least from the executive producer, put the money behind it, and so that's kind of that has been my legacy. If that lasts and goes on, and if that manages to inspire somebody else as we go on, that would be certainly an important part of my legacy. We've started writing tunes for the 3rd album. We have an interesting concept coming out for the third album that should be nice. I'd love to see that.
When is that going to be released?
You know, it's whenever I decide to plunge in and go into more debt again. You know? But my bass player, there's a fascinating story here. My bass player, we played a gig in the COC, Canadian Opera Centre, last November, and they happened to ask. They wanted a theme for the concert. It's a 1-hour concert. They wanted a theme. I went, a theme, okay. I had to come up with a theme, and I came up with this concept that is one that floated around in my head for a while, which is that in the Caribbean we have totally different shades of blue.
All right.
Right. For example, the blues you have in North America are dark blues.
Right.
You know, it's kind of indigo, deeper blues because it comes out of the
pain.
Slave tradition and the pain. In the Caribbean, we have these turquoise blues and flowers. So that's reflected in our music. We have a completely different shades of blue that are reflected in our music. We have the blues. The 7 different shades of turquoise you see when you look at a bay in the Caribbean,
right? And
I came across this dance piece by a Jamaican choreographer, Garth Fagan, who did the choreography for Lion King.
Okay,
and he did this piece. He has this piece of work that he did with Wynton Marsalis. I think it's called Griot, New York.
Okay.
In that, there was a piece called Oracabessa, the Oracabessa Sea. And I'm going, Oracabessa? I'm going like, I don't. It turns out, interestingly enough, that Oracabessa is a little town on the north coast of Jamaica. And you would think you have no connection with it.
Yeah.
Ian Fleming wrote all of his
James
books.
Bond.
He used to go down to the winter, spend his winters in Jamaica, and he had a home on that cove, and there's this little slice of water called the Oracabessa Sea. So I gave my keyboard player and bass player the challenge of writing something for me called Oracabessa Blue. Which I had in my head, which reflects the blues of the Caribbean. And Andrew came up with this absolutely beautiful piece of music.
Wow.
That we performed for the first time at the Canadian Opera Centre concert. And that probably is going to be the name of the next Calabash album. So you get these things like that. It comes out of your life and the experience. I probably wouldn't have looked at that video of Garth Fagan if my daughter wasn't a dancer, but my daughter is a dancer. I came across this piece of work by Fagan, and out of that comes Oracabessa Blue, which is now probably the next Calabash album. We hope to go to Jamaica. I hope to go to Jamaica to do the video of it actually.
All right, Tony, tell us, where can fans purchase your CDs?
My CDs. If you go to the website, we have, of course, the obligatory website, www.calabash.com. Remember, Calabash is with a K.
Right.
And we have a connection to Indie Pool. The 2 albums were produced through a Canadian group called Indie Pool, and they have a web store.
Right.
So that's the first place. You can go to the Calabash website and get access to the physical albums through the web store. We also up on iTunes.
Okay.
I don't think I have them on Amazon. I have to work with getting them on Amazon. I don't think they're on CD Baby either, but they are on the two albums are up on iTunes. So that would be the easiest way to get them right now.
Any idea where you're going to be playing next in the city?
Because
we'd love to come and see you.
Yeah, there's a new restaurant downtown called Fuse. I don't know if you know it. It's close to you here. It's on. There's a little street that comes up from Richmond called Power. That runs up to Queen. So it's there on Queen East, just west of the Don Valley, and where Power comes up from Richmond and intersects. That's the Fuse restaurant run by Farley Flex. Is one of the partners in that. And we'll probably be playing sometime in November.
Wonderful. Again. Send me the information. We'll come down there. Tell me, how does a musician monetize intellectual property in a manner where the artist gets paid fairly?
Ouch. Well, in the first place, most of the all the tracks most of the tracks on the Calabash albums are originals.
Okay.
Everybody registers them with the Canadian group SOCAN.
So okay.
And so every time your track gets played, like Andrew says, he receives a check every now and then from SOCAN because he has stuff that he wrote a number of tunes on the last album.
Right.
So SOCAN is that's one way to monetize. Small though, because
right.
you really have to get the airplay
right.
to then generate the money there.
Right.
Apart from that, one of the ways you can monetize yourself, and I haven't really explored that, is by exposure on YouTube. You can monetize your YouTube channel. We do have a channel. I don't have much on it. I think I have a couple. We had a couple live tracks we did in at City TV.
Right.
And that you'll see if you go up and you in YouTube you do Calabash or Calabash Jazz.
Right.
You'll find 2 live tracks of us, and that's the first band with Oren and Dave and Wilson and so on.
All right.
The Bouquets on saxophones, and we have 2 tracks there now. If that's the other way to monetize, if you get popular like a Snarky Puppy, you can monetize your YouTube channel.
Right.
You get a certain set of money off your hits.
Right.
On YouTube. So that's the quick way. And the other way for me is to play the festivals. If we get a toehold on the festivals across the planet,
right,
then you go from festival to festival, and we usually sell about 10%. If we have an audience, we usually sell about 10% of albums to that audience in any gig.
Right.
So that would be the other way. Would be selling albums through the venues you're playing at.
Right.
But it would be to get to play the bigger venues like jazz festivals.
Tony, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming down to Radio Region and the Cool Breeze Experience. Thanks for bringing your love to the city and the radio station, which manifests in our greatness. And I hope to see you back again. We'll be pumping your tunes.
All right. Good,
and I'm going to turn you over to DVD for part 2.